Welcome to another Clay Lab video podcast. If you enjoy these videos and would like me to continue making them, please let me know in the comments below. I promise liking the video and subscribing to the channel is free, and it means a lot to me and it helps the channel grow. With that, here is Mike Luongo and Brandon Powell.
All right, I have a special guest with Jeremy here on the Clay Lab. We have the 2023 national champion, Brandon Powell. So we're just gonna start off by picking Brandon's brain. Brandon, in the 2024 season, so what's your plans? What you gonna do? Where are you gonna go?
Going to start off in Florida, shoot the Florida swing, and just kind of go from there. Get the year started. Go out to Western Regional, shoot there, and then come back, shoot the Gator Cup, go from there.
What's your favorite shoot of the year?
Favorite shoot of the year? I like starting off in Florida. I like the RC Cup, probably the Gator Cup. Really like shooting at the Gator Cup. Like Rick Hemingway's place, really great place to shoot.
Why are you so good in San Antonio? They all want to know. Yeah, they all want to know over the years.
Well, you know, 6 runner-ups out there over the years, and so close, but so far away. It felt like over the the course of 12 years of shooting out there. I really didn't change a whole lot this year. I went out there, and I kind of told myself that, you're going to shoot every target, every station, and not be scared to miss, and shoot offensively instead of defensively, and it paid off.
And I tell people talking about that, and I want to share this, with people too. We were, Brandon will remember, we shot the U.S. Open in Tucson early in the season, and they have the random super squad, right? So you go with whoever they say, hey, you go with, and I got excited because I said I got Anthony Matarese, Brandon Powell, William Walton in my squad, all guys I know really well. And I kind of got out there and got in the mindset of, whoa, okay, I got Anthony and Brandon, arguably the two best in our game, going at this period of time. And I said, man, all I got to do is stay close, right? That was my mindset. Well, Brandon's on the cart with me. And after the first day, I shot just what I needed to shoot, right? I missed 4 birds, and I shot well. Could have shot better, but right there. Well, we get kind of midway through, and at the time, your barrel blew up, right? So your mind really wasn't in it. And I just want to share the sportsmanship with people, what Brandon did. He was pumping me up. I mean, I'm on the card. You're going to win this thing, Mike. I mean, he had me I couldn't get nervous because he's over there talking to me. Look, he probably said 150 things to me. I don't remember what he said, but it was working. And we get into this. We got 2 stations left, and there's a trap bird and a big bird bending. A lot of people were missing on that station. And Brandon, we get up there, he said, you gotta be Mike, shoot fast. He's coming at me, and people are looking at me like, this guy's crazy. I said, only if y'all knew. And I ran that station, and then we got on there, he's like, last one, just send it off. And then, I ran the last station, ran the course, so, Anthony's pumped, Brandon's pumped, everybody's fired up. And then day 3, and I tell people a learning experience. Day 3, we got re-squatted. Well, Derek Mine, personal friend of mine, known him forever, talk a lot. He's in my squad. And then Wendell Cherry and David Radulovich are in my squad. Well, and there's nothing wrong with it, but you got me and Derek are kind of pull, bang, bang, just grip and rip. And then Wendell and David are more methodical. And I kind of lost my mojo, and that's going back to what you said, the trust, and right. I lost the trust, and I can't stress that enough. And if you watch somebody like Brandon shoot, he shoots with pure trust, and lets it rip, and I think that's big. I think if we all learn to let that pressure kind of, the thing my wife said to me, she was, you're not saving the world out there, Mike. You shouldn't have got. She's just kind of coaching me about you should have just let it happen.
Right.
She goes, you're shooting clays in the sky, and that made sense to me. And I felt so going forward, when the next few shoots I shot very well because I kind of developed that trust. So I think that's a big thing that you can share to people.
It is.
You comment on that.
It's one of the hardest things I think that there is to master in the game for a lot of people. It's been tough for me for a lot of years. I still struggle with it. I feel like that 99% of the time when I miss, it's because I've checked, what's happening. I've checked the move, tried to be more aware of where the barrel is on a long crossing bird. You can't do that. You've got to, it's more of a feel, and it's something you just, some people, I don't know that everybody will ever figure it out. Honestly, it's something that years of pulling the trigger and practicing and shooting competition, it just kind of came to me one day that, hey, you got to quit you can't be careful. Because when you get to that place to where you're trying to see that gap consistently and watch the barrel move into place, then you start fighting your eyes and your hands working together. Your eyes will tell your hands where they need to be.
Right. So, I got a question for you on that I think people would love to hear. Do you think when you hit a certain stage of the game, you learned break point, hold point, and I would say the basic technical side of the game, what do you think put you to not only the next level, like if you look at your sets that like you're on your own level at the moment, what do you think put you there?
There's really not an explanation for it. There's a lot of people in the sport that shoot just as much as I do, if not more than I do practicing. I'll put the gun down. I won't shoot in between tournaments. I feel like I get burnt out. I've got to stay hungry for it. I love to shoot so much. So if I go 3 or 4 days and don't get to pull the trigger, then I'm dying to get back in there and, get signed up and be out there in front of everybody competing. I feed off of that. And, quite frankly, I've gotten addicted to winning. The more you do it, the more you want it to happen. I've almost like become an addict with it.
Yeah, I've heard that, in a lot of big sports, like Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods. I kind of watch their, 30 for 30 or just documentaries on, and they get, a certain high off of it. Like their endorphins get going. It's winning, and they want to compete 100%. And they want to show what they do. And that's probably, maybe what separates you a little bit. I remember Zach Keenbaum saying to me at the National, that guy, Mike, wants it more than anybody else. That's what Zach said to me. He goes, he just wants it more than everybody else. We can all shoot, but he wants it more than everybody else. So that kind of makes sense to the viewers. And my take would be, find that mentality. I told Brandon the other night, I got 50,000 things going on. But like today, we went out there and Brandon we wanted to challenge each other on a long bird, and I got another gear because I wanted to beat Brandon Powell, right? And that's the only reason to say it. And I beat him, right? That's the competition side of, because if I was out there just shooting with my buddy that came home to visit, that I knew my whole life, I'm not going to shoot that well.
Right.
You rise to your competition. I think my advice would get when you shoot, try to shoot with a shooter that's better than you or knows more. You've been around the game long, and kind of watch them and feed off that and get that competitive side going.
100%. I agree.
Yep.
You got to. I got to shoot with George Digweed at a real young age, and when I realized how well that guy, how good he is. He's the GOAT of the game, and George will always be the best. But experiencing that at a young age and watching him, reading about him, I was like, I want to be like that guy right there.
Right.
I set a really high goal at a young age, and I think the only reason why I've been able to get where I'm at today is I've obviously gotten a lot of God-given talent. There's no doubt to be able to do what I do. There's no real explanation for it.
Yep. Great question came up the other day. A gentleman asked, he said, Mike, name any other sport that somebody could take 5 years off and come back and win a major, right? Like a U.S. Open. So my question for you, and I just want to know, is that hunger, desire? How do you think you could take 5 years off? Like, I don't run anymore, right? So I probably can't run a mile right now, right? I want to know how you take 5 years off and come back and win a U.S. Open, because I get that question once a week from people. They're just mind-boggled about it.
I think a lot of that boiled down to the fact that, I stayed away for so long, was raising a child, kind of letting some issues that happened when I was younger pass, that I was really hungry to come back for it. So when I got back out there and I actually pulled the trigger, I realized what I had been missing, and I was just ready to go.
You just wanted it.
It just
came down to that
I
again.
wanted it 100%. I was ready to go. Looking back, I don't think I really went to the U.S. Open to win the U.S. Open.
Right.
I knew that I could in my mind, and I told myself that I could. Mm-hmm. But to actually realize when it was over, I had a shoot off with Anthony. It was kind of crazy.
Right. I would imagine.
Nobody expected that.
No, I mean, everybody was shocked. They go, it was kind of funny. And then I talk about this because I've been in the game a long time, since I was a kid. But like if I ask a kid right now, hey, who's John Kruger? Well, when I was a kid, they're like, whoa, that's who I wanted to be, because I shot with him at different tournaments, and guy was amazing. He just hit more than anybody else. I asked a kid, they're like, John Kruger, I don't know who that is, right? If I ask a kid, who's Michael Phelps? Oh man, that's a swimmer from Baltimore, Maryland. So they know, and people were coming by and they're like, who's this guy at the top named Brandon Powell? And then I had to explain to him, hey, he's been good since he was a kid, right? It was hard to beat him. I said, how do you think I felt? I came up like in the junior rankings, Brandon Powell, Anthony Matarese, Corey Cruz, like you're destined to either try to get good or get beat a lot, right? It's a tough group. But I feel like for myself, everybody's like, well, you go out and compete now. I feel like that helped me be a better competitor shooting against those guys. And because even at, when we were young, those guys were still winning major shoots at that age. So that kind of gave me, like I shot with Brandon at a world championship and he won the juniors. I mean, I watched him in front of me win, and I'm like, man, all right, what do I got to do to beat that guy?
It's been a long time.
Right, a long time ago, right? So you get into things, so I like to really watch these guys, like watch what they're doing different. And that's what I kind of did. I watched different shooters. Yeah, I've had shooting lessons, right? But I think I learned a lot as well by just watching these guys and, guys from my local town. You probably got a local hero. I mean, one of my local heroes was Gary Phillips. Again, nobody would probably know him. Brandon will tell you, a lot of different people. He was the man when I came in the game. He was winning I shot with him at a tournament and he shot like a 195 out of 200, which was unheard of. And he was mad that he didn't hit them all, right? That's how. So I watch guys like that and I'm like, so there's got to be something to this. So what did I do? I went up and introduced myself. Hey, Gary, how you doing? And I said, could you shoot with me one day? I worked at a club called Pintail Point. Yeah, I'll bring my gun out. And I'm watching this guy shooting. His gun's like boom, boom. It's not even moving. He just smoke. And I'm like, oh, I'm doing this, right? This isn't good. Like I'm chasing. And that's, I think you can learn by watching. And 99% of the pros in the game are very approachable. I'm not going to say maybe every person. So go ask them. I've seen Brandon answer questions, Will answer questions. I've seen everybody answer questions. Just go up to them. That's kind of what they do for a living. They want you to ask them. They want to help grow the sport. And kind of takes me to the next question for Brandon. So we know how you shoot. The whole world knows how we shoot. We don't need to know how you shoot. So I've seen you now kind of start progressing into coaching.
Right.
So like as your next level, and you've talked to Anthony, you've talked to me, people like that. What's your next approach in coaching? What do you want to do with that?
Well, now that I'm older and I had a really good season last year. Me and you were doing more coaching together. I'm doing it on my own. I realized that I can have a real successful career in the game, and I really enjoy helping people. So I'm starting to put more and more time into that. I still want to shoot though. So shooting season is it's pretty long. We got a lot of weekend stuff, so we're going to try to keep going with that, fitting stuff in. But yeah, I definitely love to help people. It's a big part of the game, and so I'm looking forward to growing that as I go forward and keep tagging on, bringing on more students.
Yeah, and I told early thing on, I think there's so many kids now, right, that are really they love it, right? That's all they can think about. Like I'll watch kids come into the club and they'll go, "Hey, Mr. Mike, it's great to see you this morning. We couldn't wait to get here." Like they're waiting till we open, right? They just want to pull the trigger. And at the same token, like when I played sports in high school and stuff, like I didn't say, "Oh yeah, I'm good at this." I had coaching, right? And I was very fortunate to have really good coaches. In high school, I had a coach that coached for Stanford, right? That coach, and then he had kids and kind of moved on for that and got remarried. Well, he coached at our local high school, and then he kind of inspired me to go, "Hey, like it's not about with your coaching when you're learning." You don't want to, he's like, "Mike, you made a bad play on that. You didn't read the offensive tackle," right? And I go, "Okay," but he would tell me what that tackle was doing and why I needed to go a certain direction. So he was really good at explaining hey, this is why you messed that play up after, gave me the riot act. But I feel like in the coaching, if you can really explain to people, it's not where they miss. Anybody could tell you shot high, you're left, you're behind,
right.
Whatever they want to say. Well, you need to be explaining why they missed, right, and what we have to do to fix it, right? And I think that's big, and I think that's one of the best pieces of advice I've had. When I first started coaching at a young age, I had all these like older guys that I was nervous around, and they go, Mike, you're doing a great job because you're telling me why you miss, not where you miss. But
give it more.
Right. They say you need to relax. A couple of these guys, I didn't know because I'm nervous. Well, I'm 18 years old and they're 52, and they're worth $100 million. Well, I'm nervous. Well, they're like, Mike, you know more about this than me. It's your job to help me. So I think, that's something I give to anybody. That can kind of help anybody with their coaching and anything they do in any-day life, right? Let's figure out why everything is right.
And that's the biggest thing, is explaining to somebody when they're standing there missing, what's causing you to miss. Well, you need to change this. You held too close. You started too far. There's so many different fundamentals of the game that you put into play there with that. It could be a number of different things from stance to, there's just so many different things there. And that's, one of the cool things about as long as we've shot, we've been a student of the game for a really long time, and it's easy for guys that have been a part of the game for a really long time that shoot competitively and shoot well. Some of us, I think, have an eye for that more than others, but it's really easy to be able to stand there and pick up after somebody shoots 3, 4, 5 shells and go, hey, you need to turn your body this way. Move your gun out some. Your approach to the bird needs to be changed. There's so many different things to be covered there.
So one of the things I'd like to talk about is people's level of expectations of the game, whether you're a brand new shooter that just bought your first semi-automatic and you're hooked on it, or you're a guy out there shooting 5 days a week. So a couple things I like to think about on expectations are, and I look at people, I'm real with them, I'm like, look, I'm still learning. Right? And I said, I've been doing this since I was a kid. Like I get guys that come to me, they're 65 years old. They might not have the greatest eyesight, and they were like a juggernaut in business and very successful. And you can tell with their demeanor, Mike, I want to be the next Brandon Powell. How do I do it? And I'm like, well, let's learn to mount the gun first, right? And I think you have to be realistic. And it's not an easy game. It's a hard game. You look at most people that shoot this game, they either been doing it a very, very long time, or they started when they were a kid, right? There's not a ton of people out there that say, yep, I'm on top the first year. Right. I don't know any phenom that's like, yep, I just started the game and I'm going to go win. And that's kind of any sport, right? If you look at some of your top tier athletes, just in the NCAA, their mom and dad having a camp when they were 5 years old, learning things, right? So I think you should set personal goals, is my take. Say, all right, I'm going to sit here and say, my goal is to shoot in the 80s at every tournament this year. Guy told me, I go, that could be a failure goal. He goes, what do you mean? I just want to be consistent. I go, you might go to a tournament, target setter had a bad week, and the winning score might be an 80. So how can you shoot an 80 on it, right? I said, so set personal goals. Don't get stuck on numbers. Don't get stuck on, I've got to do this. Trust the process. It takes time. I've never seen a shooter out there that's just like, yep, I've got it today. They're still learning how to win. How long you been shooting, Brandon?
25 plus years.
How many years did it take you to win the Nationals?
Every bit of that.
Some people will never win it. Right, it's a hard shoot.
Yeah. There's been a lot of guys in the sport, in the industry, win everything that there is to win, but a national championship.
Right.
So, nationals is probably one of the hardest shoots in the world to win.
Right.
4 days of being consistent, weather, wind, all that. Just let alone, we all shoot in a super squad now to kind of factor out the weather issue, but to be able to go out there and shoot good for 4 days in a row and be consistent, it's tough to do.
Tough to do. So what do you think, Brandon, your take on somebody, like what kind of goals they should set for themselves, or what should they expect from any level.
Well, I think it's a process like anything else you do. It's kind of like, you start baseball. You want to hit the ball better. You go to the batting cage every day. A lot of that's going to be determined by how much time that, how many times a week you can go out and how many targets you can shoot per week. So, a lot of that is, can I shoot 1 day a week? Can I shoot 5 days a week? Can I shoot 2 flats a day, or can I shoot, 5 flats of ammo a day? You're going to learn every time you pull the trigger. I think, all the top guys in the game, I'm still learning every time I go out and pull the trigger.
Yep.
I think we're constantly learning. Every time we pull the trigger, we're figuring something out. It may not be something big, but we're learning something that we're doing and figuring stuff out along the way.
Yep. Yeah, and I agree with that. And one thing I've seen a lot over the years is you can teach yourself how to miss. I watch guys,
100%.
right? They go out there and they're like, Mike, that tower you got set up, man, that thing's, I can't hit it. I'm like, how many shells do you shoot at it? And they go, a whole flat. I go, all right, how many targets are you gonna shoot on a monster tower at a major? They go, well, the orange course has 1 and the blue course has 1. I go, most of the time towers are 3 pair, right? For loading purposes. They go, yeah. I said, so are you going to spend all your time on 12 targets, or are you going to spend it on the other 188? And, my advice to people that don't have a lot of time to practice, I'm one of those guys, shoot quartering birds. Shoot what I would call light to moderate when you're learning, because you have to master those. And if you look at most majors, you're going to get a lot of quartering birds, specifically for course flow, easier to load, and a lot of places, specifically tight space.
I mean, I think 60-70% of the targets you shoot throughout the year are quartering birds.
Every bit, I agree that. So I said, so now you spend 100% of your time, not 100 maybe, right? 80% of your time, but be 100% on that kind of flash quartering. Now you shot a 70 or 60, and now you hit, half of the medium ones. Now you're at an 80, and you hit a few hard ones. You could be a B shooter shooting an 85, you win, right? So 100%. I try to tell people, right, master what you need to master. And I said, those big birds that people, everybody's going to miss those. How many times do you miss a hard target?
It happens all the time.
Right, happens all the time, right?
It's part of the game. I think you gotta, I think the biggest thing with people is they go out and they try to cram it all in and learn it all. You just take it in baby steps,
Yep.
Learn how to shoot the quartering birds.
Yep.
You move on. Once you learn how to shoot those, work into crossers.
Yep.
There's so many different targets and angles to shoot and to learn. So, once you learn one, you work on this one, move on to that one.
Yep. Yeah, and I think once you master that, then you can kind of build a game, I call it. Like if you're going to build a house and your foundation's cracked, the whole house is going to crack down. People see it all the time. They're coming back. I'm like, we went over this on the last lesson. Did you do your homework? They go, no, Mike, I'm going to be honest with you. I got busy. I said, did you do any gun mounts out? No. I said, well, we got to go back to that because you haven't got that down. So I think that can help people, just to help people out there, practice the stuff you should hit and be 100% on them. If you're going to shoot 4 flats of ammo, shoot 3 cases on the stuff you should hit. Spend 1 case on the crazy birds and learn sight pictures and feel and all that.
100%.
And then go from there. So they're going to ask me this, Brandon. The world wants to know, what's your goal for this year?
I'd really like to win a world championship. So I think out of all the tournaments that we have this year, that's the one that I want to add to the resume as a world championships.
So I'm going to ask you a question, because last year, E.J. Churchill, you were the silver medalist. You went on their grounds, their type of targets. Probably hadn't shot there in how long?
In a long time.
Long time, right? And we were watching little Joe Finizzi and Turner were sending me the live video, right? And so I wanted to watch, and you shot out of this world day 1. What do you think happened on day 2, right? Because if you look statistically, that course was higher. The course you shot was amazing, right? Well, what happened? Share that with us. Where was the failure? Not that you failed, but what happened?
So basically, the first 6-7 stations of the course the second day were pretty close, not all that hard, and I got careful. I was trying to kill all of them. So back to what we talked about, earlier, about nationals, about just going in there, being confident, trusting it, and letting it rip. It caught me, it bit me, you know. So it was a tough one to swallow. I mean, you know, I watched station by station. I mean, I actually missed the first pair I shot at. Second day of the World Championship.
Wow.
You know, and I go in with, you know, have the highest score shot on that course, and I'm in the driver's seat to go into the shoot-off ahead and walk away with it, and I go in there and I miss 2 quartering trap shots.
Yep.
Terrible feeling, you know. Going to the next station, trying to hammer that out. You know, barely chip my way through that with another little trap bird and a quartering crossing bird. Just being careful, fighting my eyes and my hands the whole way. So, you know, back to that trust thing, and it's hard to do when the pressure's on. It really is. It's the hardest part of the game, is having all that pressure on you and being able to still stay relaxed enough to just let it rip.
And then another thing, because people have asked me, and I think this will be important for Brandon to share. So you came off the, what they call the, you know, weekly total, second place. You were sitting 2 birds behind. Well, how did you handle this? You go to the first peg and went 0 for 4. Now, Brandon will tell you this. I got on him pretty heavy about it, because I said, a man of that caliber, I said, Brandon, and he's, oh, Mike, easy on me. I said, you should have not went 0 for 4. You're smart enough to find something. Right? So what happened? Let's,
you know, went in there.
Tell them what happened after that.
You know, went in there again, same thing. You know, I went in there trying to not necessarily be careful, but I was trying to put the barrel where I thought that it should be instead of letting my eyes and my hands work together again. So trust, and you know, I started big on the bird, and I went more, and I went more, and I went more. You know, I got way out there in front of it, didn't connect to it, and just I threw 4 of them away. And that was the chance right there. And then I told myself, I said, if you're going to win this, you know, you're not only going to not win. If you shoot the next 2 pegs layouts like this in the super final, you're going to end up dead last. You're going to go from second to last. So I went in there and I was like, not going to be scared to miss, and I let it rip, and I ran the second half of the, you know. Right. I mean, the guy saw it. Crowd was going wild, like on the live feed. You ran the last 2 pegs, so that's where your brain went. Kill mode. Gotcha. Okay. That's where it should have been. Gotcha. Yep. And I just, you know, like I said, that's a tough part of the game. How do you feel like that helped you going into the Nationals? Did you learn from that? 100%. I made that mistake there, and I told myself before I ever, you know, got on the plane to come back home and step foot on U.S. soil, I was like, not again. It's not going to happen. Yeah. And the rest of the year, I made sure that, you know, when I pulled the trigger, I was just letting it happen. Letting it happen. And it's tough. Like I said, it's a hard gear to find, especially when the pressure's on and, you know, you're in that driver's seat to be able to win. It's just something you got to do. And I think the biggest thing to help do that is you see a lot of people out there and they don't talk. They kind of stay to themselves. They're putting, I think the more you think about it, the worse it can get. Yeah, that's not you. I see you talking to people, joking. Yeah, you know, you got to be out there. I'm out there to have fun, talk to people, my friends. You know, we joke, cut up. That's when I'm shooting my biggest numbers. What happens when you get in the box? You know, when I get in the box, I just turn it off. There's 3 things that matter: me, my gun, and the bird. Yeah. And you know, you'll see me. I shoot quick in between pairs because I know what I'm doing when I'm in there. So I load the gun, and I figure the less amount of time that I spend in the cage, the less chance there is for me to think about it and screw it up. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, to watch is boom, you get there and you go. And that, you know, that's a whole nother topic, right? People with different pre-shot routines. You know, yeah, everybody's got a pre-shot routine. My 2 cents is how your brain's wired. You know, I don't really have a pre-shot routine. You know, I get in there, mine kind of consists of throwing the shells in the gun and clicking it a little bit. When I'm ready to rip, I let it rip. Yeah, and that's why, you know, we call him the alien. He's kind of on his own little planet, right? The way his mind's wired. So just thinking about that, your year, right? Just to name a few, you just started off with the RC Cup. You know, I went in there, I thought I shot great. You know, like you and Gibbon both told me, man, you could have won that, Mike, 99% of the times, right? I got beat by a couple birds, and then you didn't shoot the Caribbean. You didn't shoot the Jack Links. Right. Then you came back for the Florida Challenge, won that. Then you won the Seminole Cup. And then they're like, man, just, you know, Brandon's winning. And I mean, what was your worst finish at a regional? I think 3rd. Right.
So my question is, and we were looking at it, and I don't know if it's ever been done. If you look at the All-American points, Brandon was 10,000 targets higher than the next person on captain of the All-American team. I forget who it was. Somebody texted me, have you seen this? I'm like, I don't really. And I go, whoa. And I'm like, wait a minute, you didn't shoot the Caribbean that had over 500 shooters. You didn't shoot the Jack Links.
A lot of points.
Right, close to 1,000 for points. And then your U.S. Open was really your worst shoot. Your barrel blew up.
Yeah.
And you had that in your brain. And so, 40,000 All-American points roughly. And how you going to top that in 2024? That's my question.
Hard to do,
Right.
To have a year like that's pretty incredible, honestly. I don't think it really kind of set in until after Nationals was over and I got home. And people talk, they call you, they're like, man, what a year, and you don't think about it because you're going from one tournament to the next, and once you fire the shot, it's and you grab your trophy, it's over with really from there, and you're on to the next one. So it's and I don't know if it's like that because I've been doing it for so long. For all of us, when you win one, it's over with, and you're on to the next one. It's behind you. So for me to ever have another year like that ever again will be incredible. Honestly,
right.
But
I think that's good for people to know. Like we talked about those expectations, right? You can't out there. You got to have that mindset. I just got to shoot. If you go try to top what you did last year, woof, right? Because
you can't. That's not my mindset. Is to go out this year and try to outdo what I did last year. I'm going to go out with the mindset of knowing and thinking, hey, I'm the baddest joker with a shotgun, and
right.
I'm going to walk into every cage with no fear, and I'm going to try to shoot every target, like it doesn't matter. And I think if I shoot that way and I shoot, offensively instead of defensively throughout the year, I think that I'll win a lot again. I really do.
Yeah.
I think that's where some of those really big numbers come from is, you're going to miss some here and there that you probably shouldn't miss by being aggressive like that and going into that full sin mode, as we call it. But it allows me to kill a lot more birds than the rest of the guys because, every course we shoot, there's 3 or 4 stations where you've got some really big birds, and you've got to be able to get in there and just rip and feel it and let it happen. It's not a station, where you can get in there and you can see a sight picture necessarily. So It allows me to kill those birds that I know 99% of the rest of the field is going to miss 1 or 2 on.
Yep. Yeah, that's excellent.
So
it was funny. Gator Cup, part I always helped Rick with that shoot. Did it with Fred Marie. I've always been a part of that shoot. It's kind of a shoot I'll, kind of always be a part. And, it's funny. You're shooting the FETAS and you just won the make or break and, just won the main. And you and Anthony tied on the FETAS, and I was cracking up. Anthony comes off and beats you in that shoot off, and Anthony looks at everybody. He's like, "There you go, somebody finally beat him."
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. Somebody finally beat him. So that's neat to see. That's pretty neat because you kind of went on a streak where you were winning everything.
I did. And what better
Brandon's going to burn out, and he just kept going better.
Yeah, and what better person than Anthony?
Right.
We all grew up together. Anthony's a hell of a competitor. Ambassador of the game. He's done a lot for the sport.
Yep.
Probably gives more lessons than anybody in the game.
Right. He's a working machine.
So 100%. So you got to have respect for Anthony. So
100%. So that was good. It was cool because he was giggling about it. He loved it.
100%,
So people ask me all the time, this is a great question. They want to know what a pro shooter uses, right? Their equipment. What's your tools to success? Tell us about the equipment you must have in the game, like to give you pure confidence to go.
Well, I think that, you gotta shoot what you believe in and what you trust. I shoot a Krieghoff K80 Parkour. Love the gun. I think it's the best gun built.
Yes. You've always said that.
They're tough. It's all I've ever shot. I think I'm one of the few people in the game that's probably shot the same gun for the entirety of his career.
Yep.
You don't see that a lot. And I feel like that attributes to a lot of my winning too, because I've shot the same stock dimensions, same setup, pretty much the entire career. So I know how the gun shoots. Yep. Not a whole lot's changed for me over time. I've got Briley chokes in it. I feel like they're one of the better companies in the game building choke tubes. And then of course we got the Nitro 27s.
Now, tell me what constrictions you shoot.
Primarily I shoot 22,000s, both barrels.
Okay.
For a long time I shot a little tighter than that, and then I dropped down to a modified, which is 20,000s, and then I just kind of last year I was like, I want to shoot 22,000s, make me 22s. I don't really know why necessarily, but that's
so you
just
like
kind of
choke.
the number
You
I
like
pick.
choking.
I like a lot of choke in the
Okay.
gun. I feel like shot string is what kills the target. So tighter choke, longer shot string.
Why the Nitro?
Best shell made.
You love the shell. I'm big. I mean, I've shot Remington. I bought Remingtons, right? Shot Remington before I was sponsored by Remington, and I'm just kind of wired that way. I call it the mental midget. It's like I can go out there and take any shell and probably break any target. But my goodness, if we're shooting for money or pressure on the line, I feel like I gotta have a Remington.
Yeah, we all
right.
got that.
The creature of habits is what we are, right?
What you feel comfortable with, what you believe in, what you're used to. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people in the game, some of us are recoil sensitive, some of us want to feel recoil. It's crazy. Everybody's got their own thing.
People come up and they're like, I want to feel the kick, Mike, when they're kids. I go, have my body, then have another, I'm like, you won't forever. And I think, somebody they want to feel it though. What's your favorite feature of a Krieghoff? What would you say your favorite thing about the gun?
It's reliable.
Good.
It's reliable, hands down. I don't think there is a gun in the industry that, shell for shell, day in and day out it can take the beating that one of those guns can take.
Yep.
I mean, I've put hundreds and hundreds of thousands of rounds, through that gun. That gun's probably got almost 1 million rounds through it. It's still going, trucking along.
Still goes, right? Yeah, I think that's the great thing. I was talking about reliability on them. One of my favorite things about a Krieghoff shotgun is, and I know everybody knows, they call me Mr. Krieghoff. I'm brand heavy, right? They joke with me, but here's the reason why. People don't know this. Do a lot of guns, excellent guns, 100%. There's a ton of guns on the market that are excellent guns. I mean, people bring them in all the time. We shoot them. But Krieghoff is a family kind of organized business, right? Dieter, Phil, Betty, and then, everybody who works there. And what I like about it is, try calling, George Steinbrenner from the New York Yankees when he was alive. He ain't gonna answer your phone.
No,
you're gonna talk to his executive. I can call Dieter right now and say, Dieter, how you doing, buddy? I just haven't spoke to you, and let's get lunch one day. And he's gonna sit down, talk to me, and he created this this gun which is like an industry leader now. And I just like the people. They have a lot of employees that have been there for 20 plus years. And one of my favorite parts, and we call him our buddy Alex who runs it. He runs it like a German tank. But
customer service.
Yeah, you can comment on this. I literally feel like we have some of the best gunsmiths in the world.
100%.
Those guys are amazing. It's funny, you'll go into Krieghoff and you see other guns, and I'm over there with Matt. I'm like, he's like, I got a built-a-pot for it, Mikey. Because he's so good. He's a craftsman. So we literally have true craftsmen building the Krieghoff shotgun. We don't have machines doing it. Now, there's pros and cons because we're lying. These guys start. I mean, we're talking to Andy at the U.S. Open. Brandon and Andy were talking there, and they're talking about how your barrel latched up. And
right.
I said, Andy, when you first knew you were going to be a gunsmith, he said they gave him a blob of steel, and he had to hand file a perfect square. And before he could do that, he couldn't touch one of these guns. That was his first thing. Here you go, file it. I said, Andy, how long did it take you? Too long, Mike. It's got to be perfectly square. I have a bad German accent, but that's what I'm really passionate about the gun, right? There's a lot of good guns out there. The craftsmanship, right? I really don't think there's a gun out there with better engraving patterns. I love their artwork. It's like art to me.
100%.
Right, and there's a lot of beautiful guns, and I think the world of all guns. Brian Buzzy, personal friend of mine, yours, great guy, you know, and, you know, I sell Berettas as well. I think the world of what they do, but that's why I choose a Krieghoff, just personal. People ask me all the time, well, Mike, you know, you do. I said, no, I've been with them since I was a kid, and they've never let me down, right? Like,
They're
from
tough.
the reliability to the whole deal, and, you know, we've got a pretty cool stat we had this year. You know, we had a Krieghoff shotgun. This hadn't been done, I don't think, ever. We had a Krieghoff shotgun win the main event at the Nationals and the ladies. You know, you won the main and Madison won it. So that was pretty neat, a dual win of a Krieghoff shotgun. I want to say the last Krieghoff
follow up with the sub gauge.
That's right, you know, and then I took it out with the sub gauge, so we got the 3 rings for Krieghoff. I don't know if that's ever been done. Alex brought that to my attention. He was like, this is neat because, you know, yeah, Bobby won it one year, but somebody else won the, you know, this one won it, but we had like a sweep of the main things, and it was cool.
It was
I was just proud of it.
Solid year.
Yep, good solid
100%.
year, and it was pretty neat because you hear, you know, you just try to be competitive in everything, you know. I think that's what makes the sport great. I think anybody who shoots this game in NSCA, I feel like you have to be a little bit of a competitive junkie.
100%.
Probably a lot of a competitive junkie,
Gotta
right?
be.
And the reason I'll be honest with you, I was a competitive junkie in sports. My dad loves sports. He still does to this day. He studies it. So he had me running and gunning. And I look pretty quick. I'm like, my man over there, he's a lot bigger than me. He hits a lot harder. My man over there, he's a lot faster than me. What can I do? So when I discovered sporting clays, I can do this until I'm 85 years old. 100 years old, and I watch guys that are, and they still loving it. They're still breaking birds. So, and that's why we have divisions. And that's another thing. Talking about, you know, try to be the best in your division too, right? That's the reason we have this. You're going to take a guy, for example, that might have been the best shooter in the world when he was 25, but at 70 years old, he doesn't have the perfect vision anymore. He doesn't have the reflexes. And I think that's why we created these divisions. I stress it all the time. I'm like, yeah, you want to beat, you know, Wendell Cherry. You want to beat Anthony Matarese. I said, but you just started the game and you're 65. Let's see how good you are against your super vet peers.
Right.
Then work that goal. Not saying you can't. Somebody's going to do it one day, right? We're going to get one of these guys that are a freak of nature and be able to do it, but have those realistic expectations. But kind of to sum it up, Brandon, if you had to give any shooter advice from any level, I don't care if they're, you know, climbing to the top or they just bought their first shotgun, what's the best advice in your opinion? I mean, like I said, obviously you know how to win. You know how to, you know the game very well. Student of the game, like you said. What's the best advice you could give somebody to get better and, you know, try to climb up to the best of their ability? What do you have for them?
You know, that's tough. You know, there's so many different factors and things that you could touch on, you know, really to answer that question. But I think the biggest thing is being, you know, no matter what level you're on, is being realistic with your goals. You've got to have, you know, realistic goals. Some people just have unrealistic expectations, and you know, that's something that you'll develop over time. It takes practice, it takes dedication, and you gotta you know, take it one day at a time. And when you get to this one, you accomplish that goal, then you set another one. You just set another one. You kind of set the bar higher. Each time you accomplish a goal, you stretch it a little bit further and you try to get there.
I think that's big. I think, you know, you watch, like I said, I grew up big sports fan because of my dad, and I just kind of watched the best. But then I watched, you know, people climbing up to this, and that guy that kind of, you know, maybe early in his career, he was that awesome athlete, and then maybe he didn't have the brain side yet.
Right.
Do you think as you got older that your brain has changed? Like, do you think in a different way from when you were younger, per se?
100%, yeah. I mean, I've calmed down in a lot of ways, but I, you know, when it comes to being competitive, though, I think that some people are born with a little bit more than others will ever have. And I think it's just kind of a fact. I mean, you know, when I shoot, I bring a lot of energy to the table. You know, I think everybody in the industry will agree to that.
Right.
I mean, if I'm out there and I'm shooting good, you're going to hear me. You're going to see me. I'm jumping up and down.
That works for Brandon, right?
You know, and it just, you know, I watch everybody and I feel like you've got to be amped up. You've got to have that adrenaline, but at the same time, too much adrenaline's a bad thing. I watch it get the best of everybody all the time. You know, you see it. I think the one place that you see the most of it is the super squad at the Nationals. You know, all those top guys, you know, I'm just doing my thing, getting in there, letting it rip, and I watch all those top competitors, and they're tight, they're tense, they're nervous, they're thinking about, you know, I can win the national championship. And, you know, those 6 runner-ups that I have, I used to be that way. You know, I used to walk in there, I used to try to shoot defensively, I tried to make a good move to the bird, I'd try to see that barrel, make sure it was right where I thought it needed to be, and 9 times out of 10, when you do that, you're wrong. You're fighting your eyes and your hands.
You
trying to
feel part of the game.
100%. It's more of a feel for me, and I think the more you do it, the more you shoot. I think for a lot of top guys, it's a feel. You know, and when you learn to trust that feel and just let it go and trust that your eyes have put your hands where they need to be off that feel, that's when you're able to hammer out those numbers, and that's what allows me to do a lot of that crazy stuff that I do.
Thank you for coming out, having you on. How does somebody reach Brandon Powell if they want to get with you for a shooting lesson or something like that? They want to talk to you about a Krieghoff, whatever it is. How do they get a hold of Brandon Powell?
Well, you can go on my Facebook. We got my Instagram, powellperformanceshooting.com, you know, proshooter86@gmail.com. You know, I've got a lot of business cards out throughout the clubs and whatnot, so I'm pretty easy to contact.
Thanks for joining us on this one. Be sure to post your comments below. Subscribe and share the video with some of your friends. All podcasts are posted on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all your other favorite platforms 1 week after they premiere on YouTube. With that, this is JP. Have a good one.